Welcome to another episode of our talk show, Love It or Shove It, where we talk about the love and relationships and how do we understand ourselves better and as well as our partner. And if this is the first time you're tuning in, hello. My name is Irina Portnova and I'm all about manifestation. How do we consciously create the best relationships in our life and how do we use our energy for that? And I'm here today with my co-host, Bruno Gil. Bruno, would you like to say a couple of words?
Yeah, of course. So, hello everybody. My name is Bruno. I'm a self-love coach, and yeah, I help people become more confident, more authentic, and yeah, and obviously sometimes we all have fears and insecurities that are stopping us from doing it. So obviously we go through those and we make up a plan to make sure that we can be our most authentic, confident, and fulfilled selves. Basically, yeah. Very short and sweet.
All right. So thank you. Let's just dive into our topic because it's one of the great ones. I love that topic. It's love on mute when silence speaks volumes. And I think everybody in their relationship go through the cycles, right? Through the seasons, and that's how the life is. And sometimes we go into that pause where we are kind of silent and when we are withdrawing from each other. And we want to talk a little bit about that topic because it's very important to understand when that silence is really safe and when the truth is showing up. But sometimes it can actually slowly build the distance. So silence often feels like the calm choice. It keeps the peace, it avoids the arguments, and spares both people from discomfort. But when we
Yeah.
start thinking about that, sometimes as we see it as protection, sometimes it can become the separation. And when truth is withheld, connection becomes surface level, meaning that it is safe, but it's losing its intimacy. For instance, when one person avoids to say to the partner that they feel lonely because they don't want to sound needy, over time, that gap between what's felt and what's said grows wider. And I'm just going to give Bruno you the floor so you can express what you think about this point.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's like obviously with me, it's very. I'm a very like authentic person. If I'm upset, I'm upset. If I'm happy, I'm happy. It's honestly, it's very hard to see. And but the reality is that like um, when I'm happy, I talk a lot, and when I'm not, I'm just silent. And when I see that, you know, especially with me, it's like if I'm not being valued the way that I want to be valued, I'm going to distance myself. And and if it happens more than once, then it's very clear to me that obviously I shouldn't be with that person because it's like we should be loved by what we are, not just for the way we feel next to that person, but also by what we are. And what we are is, like we go through different phases, we go through different cycles. And I'm not going to speak for women, but for men at least, men can very easily become silent when they see that they're not being valued the way they want to be valued, especially when it happens more than once. And with me, it didn't happen a lot of times in my life as of yet, which I hope it also doesn't, obviously. But my silence speaks volumes. At least, if I was going to say it through the title, my silence does speak volumes, and my silence says a lot because then I wouldn't be silent. I'd be talking and I'd be interacting and I'd be expressing myself the way that it is, and it's like yeah. I feel like for a lot of men, when they feel unappreciated, when they feel, when they don't feel acknowledged, when they don't feel appreciated, it's very easy for men to do neither, but it's very easy
Oh,
for men
you're
to
losing the volume. We can't hear you.
my bad. Yeah, but it's very easy for men to feel like unappreciated when obviously they just become they become very centered in themselves, right? And that's fine, because what I realized that like sometimes no matter how hard you try to adapt and to just be who you are, and if the person still has some sort of I would say like a problem with it, then you shouldn't be together, and that's what it is, and that's life. You do your best to adapt to what the person says. You do your best to adapt to what the person needs, and if you still can do that, right, at least you can say that you tried your best, right, and that's very nice. Because a lot of times, for example, like um, you gotta like for you to try, you try because you love the person, right? And that's it. And you try and you try and you try, and some again like I've said it multiple times. I know you said it as well, Irina. Like love is not enough, right? In love itself is not enough. You choose to love, you choose to try, you choose to work harder in the relationship, right? And you choose to put effort into it. And if that effort is not enough, you know, because the little things, they matter, well, then it's not enough. And that's fine. I'm certain that there are somebody out there for you, you know, there's somebody out there, like for people, right? That will love them the way they are. And, and that, that they don't have to try that hard to, to be okay and to look okay and all these things, because that person will love you exactly for what you are. You don't have to be pretending that you're smiling. You don't have to be pretending, that you're fine. And that's what it is. And, if you're 100% that you give, even if you're not at 100%, right? And, if that still is something that, okay, fine, like the person that you're with recognizes that you do that and they value it. But at the end of the day, they still complain, then there's no point in you two being together. Because the right person will not do that. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay. Because we are the way that we are. And the most important thing is that we are with somebody that loves us for what we are, the way that we want to be loved, the way that we are. And that's it.
You know what? You are expressing a male point of view, and I'm going to give
Yes,
you the female point of view, right? Because remember,
absolutely.
that's why they say men come from Mars and women come from Venus. Because sometimes
Yes.
we can, think one thing until we actually make it clear to each other, right? Because
Mhm.
whatever can be for a man as like underappreciating or not paying attention, for a woman it could be completely different, and for a woman it could be that like um, I want your presence. I want to really, like to hear me, right? So I think everybody has their valid point, and what's important in this kind of situations when they arise is actually to kind of hold the space for each other, to allow another person to express what they really feel and how it made them feel. Because a lot of times we caught up with our one-sided vision. We only see ourselves in the situation, whether this is for a woman or for a man. So it's very important for both people to come together to the table. That's why communication is powerful. That's why it's important, right? Because there is a difference between peaceful space and emotional disconnection. And that's exactly what we want to talk about, right? Because peaceful space creates clarity, and emotional disconnection creates confusion. When one person says, I need a moment, but I'm still with you, the other says nothing, leaving the other person guessing, right? So there is a difference between the conscious pause, which looks like I need a little time to think, but I love you and I'll come back to this. And disconnection is walking away without explanation, right? So the
Mm.
idea is in any given relationship, people want to strive to have that connection cues, whatever it is, right? where people can communicate and deliver the message clear, so another person is not left in the dark.
Mm.
Bruno,
Yeah.
so what do you
Yeah.
say?
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely, of course. Yeah, I mean, communication is essential. In fact, again, we said it multiple times across many episodes that without communication, communication is one of those pillars in love that you need to have, because if you don't have, it's gonna fall down. Like it's gonna damage you, your partners. It's gonna damage everything.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like everything has to work for it to progress, right? And so again, I don't know if this applies to both men and women, but I feel like to men applies, and it especially applies to me. When I hear the same thing over and over again, or I say the same thing over and over again, and obviously, my partner, just the person just doesn't, just obviously, like just doesn't really understand, right? And then again, they don't understand because as much as they can, like, hear it and listen and acknowledge it, at the end of the day, it will always come up their desires first, and then the desires of the partner first, because we always have to think for ourselves, right? But then again, it's like, although I understand that with previous partners and stuff, and even now, it's like I cannot be with somebody who just cannot understand that I do not function that same way. Like, people are all different. That's why adaptation is so important. Because if we were all the same, communication wouldn't be needed. Because, if you're the same as me, then I know what you're thinking about. And if you're the same as me, I know where you're going. You just go to the same place that I'd go to vent or to have a good time. But we're not all the same. We're all different. And that's where the fun is. Because you can, in real time, front row and first hand, right? You have the possibility to get to know the person. And you get to know the person and you say, okay, fine. You don't like me on this, but you like me on this. Okay, if we make the effort, you can adapt to that way that I am, and I can adapt to that way that you are. That's fine. And we'll do our best. But when both parties try as hard as they possibly can and they still cannot do that, there's, again, like, there's, to me, in my case, it's like, there's just really no point in continuing to try and try and try when you know that it's just,
again, it's just
Yeah.
your subjective thoughts, right? What I wanted to add to that is that there is a lot of times when we are in our head and we just make up these stories. So what my invitation is to everybody who's listening, and even like we are having the conversation, right? My invitation is to, like, really ask the person the questions before you make up the, whatever you think it is, right? Because again, a lot of times it's just in our head, it's our thoughts. That doesn't mean that this is the truth, right? That's why we are saying, don't be silent. Just, like, really, if something bothers you, just, like, put it on the table. But there is always a difference of the way we talk, right? Whether this is aggressive tone or whether this is the tone of curiosity, and just, like, I think what everybody wants to have more is the compassion. This is something that people are learning and growing, right? And there is no such a thing as it's not workable, because again, every time we choose how we are acting, we can choose how we are feeling, even though sometimes, yes, there are times where we are not really feeling well, but again, consciously, we can choose exactly how we are acting and what we are saying in any given moment. And it's the skill. This is something that we are actually developing throughout our life journey, and we become better at it the more we are practicing that. So that's like my like sense to that, because energy never
Yeah.
lies. What you don't say, you still communicate, whether this is through your tone, through the body
Mm.
language, through withdrawal or the tension, because unspoken words linger in
Yeah.
the air like that static, and the other person feels them even without hearing them, right? For instance, if the one person says, I'm fine, while while
Mm.
that energy is screaming otherwise, the partner can always sense the
Yeah.
distance, even if they can't explain it, right? So I think that relationship is something that people are working on regardless, whether they know each other just for
Mm.
months, whether they are in a relationship for 10 years, 20 years. It's something that is required the work like anything else, right? So the
Mm.
idea is that it's just a done deal, and nothing is changing. It really doesn't work this way. Oh, we have the great comment. Woo! Um, oh, okay, this is something else. It has nothing to do with our show. So I
Oh
just
no.
wanted to say that, it's super important, because this is the point of our growth. This is the point why we are
Yeah.
here, because we were
Mm.
not brought to this world being perfect and knowing how to deal with each other. And that's exactly how we become more stronger, how we become more powerful, how we become more compassionate and more loving to others, realizing, yes, everybody is different, but at the same way,
Mm.
it's just, like, you want to give as much as you are receiving. And I totally believe in the law of circulation, right? So it's all about just really getting curious about your partner, about how they are feeling, about how can I do something different so the relationship is improved. And we are talking about both, right? Because both people are contributing to that. And again, if somebody feels like they are off, um, I feel like, there is the communication is there for the reason, right? Because
Mm.
communication isn't just about talking, it's about being emotionally available, because real communication requires our presence, not the performance. You can say
Mm.
all the right words, but if your heart is guarded, that message won't land. So
Mm.
emotional availability means listening to the partner without defensiveness, speaking with authenticity, and being open to repair when things feel off. Bruno, would you like to add something to that?
Mm.
Because I have
Um.
great.
Yeah.
You want to say
Yeah.
something
Sure.
before we move it?
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I think you're absolutely on point. Again, like I'm not gonna go back on my point. You're 100% correct. Love is about communication. Love is about, like, because obviously, sometimes like we all join relationships in different phases of our life. Sometimes, we have somebody who, is more evolved. We have another person who maybe needs a little bit more help, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes a lot of people, they say like, oh, I'm not ready yet, because I'm not this and I'm not that, and this person has this and this person is this, and this person, they're so smart and they're so evolved, and they're so much better. It's like I feel so lucky that I get this chance, but not now, but not now, but not now, and not now means like weeks, months, years, and then by the time that happens, that person already found somebody else like multiple moons ago, and they're married, have kids and stuff, and that's it, you know. So I feel like being ready is not. It's not about getting ready. It's about being in it, and then slowly but surely, like evolving, right?
Mhm.
And
I love
and then
that.
again, you're always guiding and teaching your partner and
Mm-hmm.
all those things. And sometimes the other person has nothing to teach. That can happen, or maybe they do, right? Like maybe a partner can
We
help you
all
more
have
with your
something
emotions
to
and your
teach
spirit.
each other, Bruno. We do all have something to teach each other. So
Yeah,
there
there
is
we
no
go. That's
such
it.
thing that
But it
one
doesn't have.
person
But what I mean, like,
is knowing it
yeah.
all.
But
Yeah,
what I mean,
because
what I mean is like it's not the same thing though. Like like a partner can help you more with your emotions and your spirit. The other partner can help you more with other things, right?
yeah.
That's important for you. And the most important thing is that the effort is there, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
going back to my previous point, when we wish to be validated for the way that we are, right? And we believe that we're validating the other person so much more, right? And the other person is not actually validating you for what you are, only for what the person wants it to be, right? Or desires it to be. Things don't work out. There will always be an imbalance, and that can happen, right? And if that imbalance is there, then yeah, it just doesn't really go anywhere.
All right. So can I just share some tools for people to
Yeah,
really
of course.
understand? So these are a couple of tools that you can try for yourself to turn silence into understanding without blame or shame. So always start with the curiosity. And the best way to do it is just to ask, I feel this distance between us. Can we talk about it? Then the next step would be own your part. Replace blame with vulnerability. Something in the lines of, I've been quiet because I didn't know how to share what I was feeling. The third step would be to use gentle entry points, something like timing and tone matter more than perfection.
Mm.
Step number four is acknowledge effort, because even small steps toward honesty deserve the appreciation. And step five, create a ritual of reconnection, maybe a weekly talk, a walk, or check in, because these practices can rebuild the bridge that silence once broken. Do you want to add something before we close up?
No, not really. I think it was all very nice, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, can't wait for the
Yeah,
next
so
one.
yeah, and I just wanted to close with the thought that silence can protect or separate. It all depends on how consciously we use it. And when love learns to speak again, even softly, healing begins in the space between the words. So thank you so much. Thanks, Bruno, for sharing your perspective on that. And we would love to hear from others who are tuning in. What is your experience with the silence? And if you're watching in the replay, just put in the comment replay so we know that you tune into our episode. And maybe you do know somebody who that episode could be useful for. Just share. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week on the next episode. Bye.